Fresno State is made up of 25,000 students. Each of these students offer a diverse background as to how they got here and their stories before. Yourself contributing to this diverse student body. And as a member of this diverse student body, it is important to acknowledge those diverse backgrounds for beneficial reasons such as networking and meaningful campus experiences. Through personal experiences attending Fresno State events, as well as an insightful interview with Dr. Colin Stewart, the Dean for Student Involvement, as well as some research regarding the role diversity plays on campus, we are confident in the information we are sharing with you today. Fresno State's focus for large-scale events have shifted from its students to the community, resulting in a disruption amongst the experience of a diverse student population. This will be supported through the following concepts: advertisement, audience, and action.
Advertising towards the community leads to less student-populated events. The lack of advertisement that interests the students of this campus limits student knowledge and involvement when events that are capable of inviting diversity take place. For example, Vintage Days is one of the biggest events that gets most of Fresno State's students in one place besides football season. But what both of these events have in common is that they are not just for students of Fresno State. They also invite the surrounding populations as well. Having students who come from all areas of the Central Valley and beyond come to one campus to expand and explore identities is truly amazing. Unfortunately, this shift from students to the community causes a disruption for students to experience their own diversity from one another. In the article, Here's What You Missed at This Year's Vintage Days by Jennifer Reyes, published in the Collegian, quote, Vintage Days welcomed locals to Fresno State's campus last weekend. Community members swarmed through the campus lawns. Kids rode the train as it circled around trees in front of the Doyle Administration building. This year's festival included a car show. The community had the opportunity to admire the many different cars in the show, with family and friends. Vintage Days is a student-planned event that attracts visitors from all over, end quote. From this article, the quote that we retrieved expresses and acknowledges that the vast majority of highlighted moments was experienced by the community and not by the students of Fresno State. Rather than advertising to the community, our diverse student body should be the primary and sole focus for invitations to these large events. As we know, advertising has a huge impact on the audiences it brings to its events. The quantity of people in attendance as an audience is favored over its students. In our interview with Dr. Stewart, the Associate Dean of Student Involvement, questions pertaining to why and how Fresno State picks their audience for their events is explained.
We look at our student body and the diverse student body that we have. Our largest student population is Latinx students. Break it down, even Latinx women, right? So, or Latino women. So, like bringing someone that our students can identify with and have a strong positive message, like that was critical for that program. The next year we brought Dr. Sean Harper. So he's African American, and like that's his specialty, right? He looks at those types of issues that the underrepresented students, are the challenges that they experience on college campuses, and he did a program for both individual students, but also for staff, and then one for just the general open community. And so when I hear that question, how can we bring, essentially do one event that hits every single population? I think we need to do events that are inclusive and open to everyone, right? And so that means not bringing the same type of performers or the experiences or educational opportunities every single time, right? And we're talking about more large scale. I think there is value in having niche programs that speak to smaller populations, because that's important for those populations. But when you say large scale, there's Vintage Days is a major campus event. New student convocation is a major campus event. Homecoming, commencement, Those are our kind of significant campus events that we have. And so what do we do to make sure that everyone's involved? And we'll talk about commencement. There's over 30 different commencement ceremonies. You may or may not have known that. That's a lot, right? And so we have ones for each colleges, we have our main commencement, then we also have ones for affinity groups, individual populations, the opportunity to celebrate and be recognized for the hard work that they do. Homecoming's a little bit more challenging, right? Because there's a week long of experiences, and some of them are more niche. Then we have the football game, right? And then we have these performances, we have the pep rally. And so what type of experiences are we providing that, again, are broad enough that we can get the largest group of students to be there? And then when it comes to new student convocation, that's a more kind of, our formal academic welcome. But what are those experiences, and who's on stage, so that we're not having just all one gender that's always, speaking? How are we mixing it up, and what are the other types of speakers, and what are the points, the things that we're focusing on? Those are critical.
The next question asked was, what is the purpose of inviting and including the community in our events similar to Vintage Days, rather than keeping it to just the student population as its audience?
Vintage Days has been going on for 45 years, and so it's had a whole lot of evolutions and changes, and a big focus that we've had for at least for the last 3 years since I've been there is how do we focus more on students.
Yeah.
And that's like more, and there is value that comes with engaging the community, right? Like if someone is not connected or doesn't have a purpose of being on Fresno State, there's value of engaging with community members for a lot of reasons. There's that, and I don't want to dismiss that. But a big goal of our team these last few years and moving forward is focusing much more on our student population. I don't know, did you all go to Vintage Days?
Yeah.
So you may have noticed a new feature that was essentially a student zone, right? Like it's exclusively for students. And in the last few years, they've been doing the college night, Friday night, the first night of Vintage Days, that's specifically for college students. And so we're getting there, and we're not there yet. We need to do a lot more to get to that where it's much more student centered.
Yeah.
But there's a mixture, and talk about homecoming, right? Like we do homecoming and family weekend at the same weekend. There's value with engaging in our community and alumni and bringing them back and making those connections with our students. And we're not there yet too, like it's not perfect, but we're getting much closer and closer to that. But for me, and when it comes to student involvement, like I believe like our students to be more engaged, more opportunities, more, especially in this next homecoming 2019, we will be doing a huge event at Save Mart, and the primary target is students. We'll open it up to young alumni, but it'll most likely be, and don't quote me on this even though you're recording, but like most likely be a hip hop act. That's what our students are saying that they want, and then it'll be someone that you recognize, right? And it'll be like either free or a very cheap ticket to go see it. And so again, there is community engagement.
The Associate Dean of Student Involvement himself has acknowledged that students have not been a priority at most large events, but have been separated into groups in which they identify. An issue he hopes to resolve in the near future as proficiently as possible, due to the fact that we, the diverse students of this campus, deserve to be the priority audience served.
With help from people like Dr. Stewart from Student Involvement, as well as the Gender and Cross-Cultural Center, campus diversity seems to be shifting back into prioritizing its students. Fresno State creates its own events, and therefore these events include audiences that Fresno State knowingly attracts and therefore are responsible for attracting these specific audiences. In the ASI presidential debate, one of the candidates quotes, open quote, "I'm not just here for the Hispanic group here at Fresno State. I'm here to stand up for all races, all genders, no matter your sexuality, what group you come from, or political views. Sanchez Matias." I believe this quote is really insightful and really opening, that Fresno State and its events hopefully are prioritizing more of the students, bringing focus back to the students instead of the community, which is still beneficial, can be still beneficial, and you can still include the community, but prioritizing its students first.
To end, we'd like you to reflect on the information shared with you today. Fresno State's focus for large-scale events has shifted from students to the community, resulting in disruption amongst the experience of a diverse student population. The The idea was presented through the concepts of advertisement, audience, and action. There are over 25,000 students enrolled in this campus, and it's time that we start prioritizing them. Campus diversity can only happen when efforts are made to advertise purposefully, invite the right audiences, and take action in the large events that can be tailored to create beneficial networks and meaningful campus experiences for you, the students of Fresno State.